So for a value investing channel, um, everything money does not seem to provide a lot of value themselves, right? And they're kind of all over the place, especially since Seth left, or I guess they kind of gone more in a certain direction. So let me explain to you what I mean with a few clips, and then we'll go into it.
More of it or not sell.
We see a lot of people with Harvard degrees, Ivy League degrees, and they don't have the emotion to do this, and they don't generate returns.
Exactly. Look at every
Very
mutual
simple.
fund out there.
You can know all the stuff you need to know in the world.
Look at all the mutual funds out there. Actively managed mutual funds over 10. I've seen varying data that says over a 10-year period, it's between 92 and 98% of actively managed mutual funds do not beat the market.
And who manages those?
And who manages those?
Ivy League grads.
Mostly all these big shot people.
Yep.
Markets go down.
Okay, so here Mo agrees that, 90 plus percent of mutual fund managers don't outperform the market, but then proceeds to make his own content saying that, well, he can, but these are all the smart Ivy League grads who can't, and he agrees with that. But when he's sort of, I guess, allowed to make videos on his own, the narrative completely changes, right? So here's a video that Mo made.
Year or 120% per year. Sorry, that's not me. If you're looking for that, go find one of those yahoos on YouTube. I'm looking and saying you're going to probably make somewhere in the 12 to 20% range.
Okay, so he says 12 to 20%. 12 to 20% is market beating returns, right? So you're going to pay him $80 a month or whatever it is, um, to underperform, because as he just agreed with Paul, 90% of mutual funds underperform, and if that's because of their fees, well, paying for the oracles of EM is also a fee. So I made a little calculator here. Yeah, it's 30 bucks and then 80 bucks. So a little calculator here. If you buy the oracles of EM, it's $80 a month, 960 a year. The expense ratio of VT is 0.07%. In order for you to match the expense ratio of VT, you'll need $1.3 million. So people who are watching Everything Money, no offense, probably don't have $1.3 million. And I'll explain why. It's because they're not very sophisticated with what they provide. So if you have anything less than 1.3 million, you're paying a pretty large expense ratio as opposed to buying VT in this example, which is super low. But that is still a cost that you have to account for. So the first thing that I want to hit on is the whether you purchase the $30 or the $80 course per month, you get access to their DCF calculator. And as many people have pointed out, this DCF calculator is flawed. The reason why is because when you calculate cash flows, the cash flows nearest to you in the future are worth more. So the assumptions that you make the next 5 years are pretty important. So we saw with COVID, like a lot of companies either had super large declines in revenue or they had super large increases in revenue. But the problem with their calculator is that it applies a static growth rate of revenue over the years. And we saw this happen with, I think it was Smith and Wesson, where they took last year's revenue or whatever the last year's or last quarter's revenue was. I think they average it as well, and then you extrapolate that at 2%. Well, the next quarter was a 40% drop in revenue, so that completely changes your DCF model. The other thing is with the $80 tier, you get options and day trading uh, lessons or courses, right? So the thing with day trading is we know empirically that it just doesn't work. It's very similar to gambling, where people will take advantage of the fact that you can still do well, right? You can still go to a roulette wheel at a casino and do really, really well. It doesn't mean you're going to perform well over the long term, and we know that you want to perform well over the long term because the compounding effect, right? Whatever strategy you have, you want to ideally be able to compound that infinitely into the future, right? That's what we're looking for. Day trading, we know that's not the case. So the more time you waste on day trading, it's not necessarily like whether you make or lose money. It's like over time we know it's a losing game, so you're not going to compound. You might do well, but you're sort of distracting yourself from a process that actually works and wasting precious time, because you could do really well 5 years and then get completely destroyed, and there's goes 5 years of compounding returns that you could have had doing a strategy that actually works, right? So the other thing is options. So I think in his morning show today, he mentioned he was going to do like an hour or two long option questionnaire type thing. And not a lot of people know about Tasty Trade, Tasty Live, Tasty Works. They have like these sub companies, right? They have courses for free. So there's a 40 lesson beginner course, a 5 lesson implied vol course, and 24 lessons on futures trading, all for free. And if that's not enough for you, you can go. They have all these different little segments that they do, and you can scroll down and you can find the segment that they did every single day. They're like 10, 15, 20-minute long videos, and you can go back and watch these, and you can search for a topic right here that they've most likely covered. Okay, so I'm going to tell what's good about Tasty Trade first and then what's bad about it, right? These guys have been in the business for 30, 40 years. Their brokerage, like their help desk, it's a bit of a smaller brokerage. So whenever I actually email these guys, even though I don't have money in my account, they'll still respond back to me. So if you just have a question about options trading, you don't have to pay them anything. You just have to make an account, right? And most likely there's some sort of incentive. They'll give you some free stocks or whatever, right? But you don't have to put any of your money in there. What else? So there's a lot of like free resources that you can get without paying $80 a month to some guy who 1 minute says you can't beat the market, but then the next minute says that you can. He's kind of all over the place. And from what I've seen when they talk about options, they do not have nearly a deep understanding of what exactly it is that you're doing and all the different things that play. So, for example, here's a thought experiment. If we know that day trading is unprofitable over the long term, then trading options just shifts the probabilities around. So instead of dealing with a stock where it's kind of one-to-one, and the probability is like, let's say 50-50 of it going up or down, with options you just change the probabilities and the wins and the losses around, and that creates more variance. So you could do an option trade that has really high probability of success, and you can do that for a really long time and think that it's a really good idea. But then you might get 1 or 2, 3 losers in a row. It would be rare, but it will happen at some point. And all of a sudden, there goes your gains for the last 3 years. It happens, right? Option trading also has a lot more fees. The reason why Tasty Trade puts out so much content is because they want to get you on your brokerage that's designed specifically for options, and they want you to trade them. When you put on an Iron Condor trade, that's like $5 in commissions, right? Not to mention the spread you're paying if you're trading in a liquid product, or the taxes you're going to have to pay at the end of that, because all it's going to be taxed at short-term taxes, capital gains. So there's a lot more frictions in options trading. But if you really wanted to learn it, I would not pay everything money, $80, to do this when there's literally 100 times more content about options for free on this website right here. And that goes for day trading as well. If you really, really want to do it, which I don't recommend, there are resources out there for free that are much, much, much better. Final thing is that, well, if you day trade, you will go bald. And this is also an empirical fact. All right, see.